Hello, guys, and welcome to this week's podcast. I'm Paula, your host, the Landscapers Coach. And this week, I'm just giving you a general update and some key advice and tips for when things change in your business, like it has done for me. So, if this is intriguing, let's go to the show.
As the co-founders of the Landscaper Circle, we help you get more money, time and freedom to become limitless through our experiences as fellow landscapers and our tried and tested methods. If you want help with your marketing, managing or growing your business, you've definitely come to the right place. If you're a landscaper, garden designer or supplier to the industry, then hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now, let's get back to the show.
Hello, guys, and welcome to this week's episode of the Limitless Landscapers podcast. How are you? I hope everything's going well in your businesses and your world, and landscaping is going fantastically. Today, I wanted to bring you an update of what's going on in my landscaping business, the changes that are happening, and some tips and advice for if things are happening in your business or changes are happening and you're probably feeling a bit overwhelmed like I was, not so much any longer. So let's get straight into it. Essentially, one of my senior members of the team handed in his resignation last week. And with that came a number of things that had to happen, knock-on effects going forward. And it is what it is. At the end of the day, whoever leaves, and you get on without them and you change things to suit your business going forward. Now, what I wanted to remind you guys is that there are a couple of steps that I do every time something like this happens. Now, it could be someone leaves, or it could be that something's not possibly bringing in the money, like maybe a service isn't working for you, or perhaps you have to invest in some new kit, new tools, new van, etc., or you're looking to hire some staff. Now, the first thing and only thing you should be doing is looking at your cash flow forecast. And if you haven't got a cash flow forecast, you are seriously not fully in control of your business, in my opinion. Because as soon as things like this happen, a resignation, then I turn to my cash flow forecast to give me the answers that I need in order to make the best decisions for myself and my business. Now, my business, Aura Landscapes, was offering the full package from design to build to maintenance and soft landscaping as well. With the resignation of this senior member of the team, it caused me to go and reflect upon what was happening in the business, looking at the true facts. So looking at the income, looking at the expenditure, looking at the profit levels, looking at the lead gen, looking at conversion rates, all of that I reviewed. And I reviewed it with the help of my trusty admin lady, Annmaree. She really is a godsend, particularly in times like these where there's big changes happening. And we essentially looked at all the figures and I put them in the cash flow, and I realized that part of the problem is that the team isn't making any money. So the soft side and the maintenance side isn't generating the income we need as a business of the size that we are. So through then going through the cash flow forecast and running different scenarios, so looking at who we're employing, what overheads we could get rid of, could we get rid of vans, could we take away the office, could we look at all different if scenarios. And I talk about this when I'm doing business coaching with clients, is if you've got a big decision to make, you need to run through the if scenarios, and whether that's expansion or cutting costs, you need to put this all in an if scenario on your cash flow forecast, just to run the numbers really and sense check some decision making that you will be making in order to go forward in the business. So that's what we spent some time doing, running different if scenarios and seeing what is going to be beneficial not only to the business, but to ensure that the life we lead is able to continue. So essentially not dragging me into the business full time, which means I wouldn't be able to be there for school pickup and school runs, and I have to look at childcare. So it's thinking of things as well from your perspective, like your personal life, because if the shit hits the fan and in order to move forward, you might have to go and work full-time hours, then you are going to then have to consider the extra cost of childcare if you have children to take care of, and all of these things. So it's important not only to look at the business side, but also personal effects as well. So if you're going to be working more hours on the tools, are you going to have time to get the quotes out in the evening, etc., etc. So that's what I did. Turned to the cash flow forecast, made some realizations, and then had to essentially make some decisions. And those decisions have been to essentially close the soft landscaping and maintenance side as of the 5th of August. So this meant that we had to have some tough conversations with employees and give them options. We had to look at the apprentices that we currently have that we will no longer be able to serve because the current apprenticeship they're on, they have to do, soft and hard landscaping. And if we haven't got the soft provision, we can no longer treat them as apprentices. So then we had to look at how we can support them in getting a new position in another company. So there's been a lot of things to think about, plus letting customers know, making sure we fulfill the existing diary that's booked in, winding it down in a controlled and effective way, ensuring that the guys have work for their notice periods. All of these things had to be done, but essentially the one thing that guided every decision and helped reduce the overwhelm was running through the different scenarios on the cash flow forecast, making a decision, and then putting that into the, live cash flow forecast sheet that I run the business from. And that is what I wanted to remind you of today, is how important cash flow forecasting is, because it really does, alongside looking at the income and expenditure of your business and the conversion rate, stuff like that, it really does give you a picture on how well your business can run if you do different changes. So whether that's, like I said before, whether that's growing the business or reducing the business down, it all has an impact on the cash coming in. It all has an impact on how you're going to manage to pay any debt you have, manage to pay anything that you owe, anything that's outstanding. Maybe you've got some builders merchants outstanding, etc. So it's really important to go back to your cash flow for every decision, every kind of thing that crops up like this. This was very much out of the blue, and therefore we had to manage it correctly. What the second thing I would urge you to look at in your business, particularly when you're taking on staff, is looking at HR provision. Now, when I started Aura Landscapes 14 years ago, I was the HR person with zero HR experience. So it was very much me going online, looking up legislation, looking up contract templates, basically muddling through. Now, fast forward 14 years, obviously we're a larger company, and I actually invest on a HR provision. So I have an external company that I outsource all the HR to. And essentially, I think this has been so worth it, so worthwhile the investment, because essentially we've had to go through accepting a resignation, then what that means for that person who's given in the resignation. Are they going on gardening leave, etc., and any other things that have cropped up? We've also then had to look at redundancy options for short-term members of staff. We've also had to look at the apprentice provision. We've had to look at probationary contracts and whether we're going to end new members of staff in those contracts as well. And the best thing has been that I can pick up the phone, ask the questions I need to be asked, and then get their help in dealing with what are sensitive matters, because these are people's lives and livelihoods and their jobs. And it's really important. Now, I feel much more prepared for anything, knowing that I've got someone there that I can go and chat to and ask questions, get advice, and know that I'm doing everything properly, know that I'm following employment law, knowing that I'm just ticking the right boxes and everyone is happy, employees and us as employers. So I think that's super, super important. Something else that I wanted to remind you of when things are happening in your business that might not have been foreseen, or changes that you want to do, is looking at the processes that are in place, because we have been working hard as a business to implement systems and processes, as you will know if you've listened to the podcast or seen our Instagram, but we've been literally looking at systems and processes and implementing them across the company. in order to make things easier and more efficient. And essentially, it's come to light that some of these processes don't work. And this is another thing that we are revisiting consistently and constantly, I feel, in the business to ensure that things do work a lot better. So whether that's for me heading up the teams and stuff and managing them better, whether it's how people do log their daily log sheets, so that's something that we're looking at, whether it's a job pack that we give to all our teams upon starting a job and what that looks like, because we do have them, but it's not as good as I want it to be at the moment. All of these things ultimately come down to processes and systems, including also something that I have been reviewing a lot lately is the sales process. If you've listened to any of the past podcasts over the last few weeks, part of my new role in the business, if you like, although it's not really new, it's just I'm taking more of a forefront approach to this, is the importance of sales and having a regular sales meeting with my guys that head up the teams. And essentially, part of this system and process has been really good because it means that I've got far more control over everything. It also means that I'm now looking at the sales process as a whole, which feeds into the customer journey as well, and how we can make it way better, much more efficient and much more successful, shall we say. So part of this is whether I now take control of the leads again and book them in for said people to go and see and do the site visit, and then it comes back to me for follow-up. We're just going to play around with some of the steps in the sales process to see if we can get it working better. And I think that's the final thing I want to remind you of, is that whatever systems and processes you have in place, whether they're formal or informal, whatever sales process you have in place, there's always room for improvement, and it's always worthwhile revisiting how you can tweak it, what you can do to get the best out of the people that you work with, and also what needs to be changed. There might not be anything, but for me, I think conversion rates need to improve, and also the speed at which we get back to people. So by changing who deals with it in the first instance, i.e. me, means that I can vet inquiries to the extent that I want to, and also I can book people in so I can manage their calendars for them when it comes to new inquiries and site visits. It's just things like that that has come to light again because we've been reviewing the business as a whole, not just closing of the soft and maintenance side, but also looking at how we can develop the other sides of the business, or whether we wind those down. But essentially, business is a work in progress. You have to try things. I've never regretted trying things and then failing. What I have regretted is not doing the things in the first place. So I would always do something and try something new and be prepared that you might fail rather than not do it at all. So that's just my mindset. I'd rather try something and it not work than never try it and then wish I'd tried, because you can always look back and say, oh, if I'd only done that, it would have worked. Well, unless you try, you don't know. And it's the same with everything in business. You've got to it's trial and error. It's a bit like marketing. You try stuff. Does it work? Yes, you continue with it. If it doesn't, you review it, make tweaks, cut it off, make change basically, and you move forward. And that's what I intend to do with the business. We are moving forward, but we are going back to being specialists in hard landscaping. And we tried, it didn't work, and we move on. But essentially, the three things that I think you need to keep thinking about in your business are the cash flow, always going back to the cash flow, potentially outsourcing HR, or even if HR isn't a need for you, have you looked at where else you can outsource stuff that will give you time back, and so you're doing things properly and not muddling through? So outsourcing is key. And thirdly, systems and processes across the whole of the business. What could you do better? What could you make better in order to push your business onto that next level? Or maybe you're thinking you need an easier life. How can you make that happen? Because it's all about work-life balance. I'm not about the hustle. I'm not about let's grind ourselves into an early grave. I'm all about having the life you want with a business that supports that life for you and is profitable and successful. So that's it from me this week. I'll give you another update next week, because I'm sure lots of new things will have happened that you can learn from. I'm all about sharing. And essentially, if you need any help in your business, do get in touch. Paula at thelandscaperscoach.co.uk. If anything that I've said, how you think, oh, that's what I'm going through, drop me an email, drop me a DM. We can have a chat, because yes, these are the things that I'm there for. When you're going through some times in your business that can feel a bit overwhelming, you don't know a way out, then yes, that's when you need the support in your life. And that's what I'm here to do. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, hit me up with a 5-star review, share it. Sharing's caring, and get me in front of more people that might need to hear this. And I will see you next week on the next new episode of the Limitless Landscapes podcast. See you later, guys.